Hey y'all, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to run a correlation in SPSS. So if you look at your data project 2, you're going to see two files. One is the instructions and the other is the actual SPS data file. So what we're looking at right now is that data file. So you can see in the instructions that we're looking at 6 variables here. I'm just going to click into the variable view. That's our bottom on button on the bottom left here. So you can see that we have conscientiousness, neuroticism, missed homework, times exercise per week, nightmares per month, and chores per week. So conscientiousness is a personality trait. So higher scores represent higher levels of conscientiousness. Neuroticism is another personality trait. Higher numbers mean more neurotic, lower numbers mean less neurotic. Missed homework is the number of times per week someone has missed a homework assignment. Times exercised is how many times they have exercised per week. You can see these labels here in the label column. Nightmares per month is how many nightmares do you have per month. And chores per week is how many chores do you complete per week. Okay, so what I'm going to show you how to run is a Pearson bivariate correlation. So this is going to tell us the degree and the direction of the relationship for each of these variables. So to do that, I go to Analyze, Correlate, and Bivariate. Now the reason it's called bivariate is because we're going to be looking at the relationship of two variables. So what's the relationship between variable A and variable B? We're going to be putting more than two variables in this matrix, but each correlation is only going to look at two variables at a time. Okay, so we go to Analyze, Correlate, Bivariate, and then we'll click. Okay, now we're going to take all of our variables except for respondent ID and put them into the variables box here. Respondent ID is just a way to keep the data organized. We don't actually analyze it. So we're going to move conscientiousness, neuroticism, homework missed, X times exercised, how many nightmares, and how many chores. So we're just going to highlight all that and move it into variables. Now, before we run the correlation, we're going to make sure that we know how we're dealing with our missing data. In this case, you're going to exclude cases list-wise. So let me show you that again. We're going to go to Options, and under Missing Values, we're going to say Exclude Cases List-wise. That means we're only going to be looking at the participants who answered all 6 of these questions. So we hit OK, and then we hit OK to run our correlation. All right, so there we have it in SPSS. First of all, notice for each correlation we have the Pearson correlation, which is the coefficient. The coefficient tells you the strength and the direction of the correlation. For example, here we see a negative 0.126. So that means it's a negative correlation. As neuroticism goes up, conscientiousness goes down. But we see the p-value, which is right below it under significance, is 0.66. So it wasn't quite reliable enough to be statistically significant, right? We have a 6.6% chance of making a type 1 error. That's too high. We want it to be less than a type 1 error. Now, in the correlation matrix, we see that significant correlations are flagged with 2 stars if it's significant at the 0.01 level. And if it were significant at the 0.05 level, there'd only be 1 star there. Here's another thing to notice. Notice this line of diagonals here with 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's the variable correlated with itself. So conscientiousness correlated with conscientiousness, neuroticism correlated with neuroticism, and so on. So every variable correlates perfectly with itself. Now, notice what happens above and below this diagonal. So we have the exact same information above the diagonal that we do below the diagonal. So we have neuroticism with a correlation of that in conscientiousness of 0.126 negative. with a significance of 0.066, sorry. And we see that exact same information up here. If we look at the correlation between missing homework and conscientiousness, we get negative 0.194 with a significance of 0.004. And we have that exact same information right here too. So remember, in APA style, we're trying to get rid of redundancy. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to build an APA style table based on this that gets rid of that redundancy. Okay.